Hi, everyone. We'll go ahead and begin. Thank you so much for coming today. I want to welcome everyone to our second annual clinic induction ceremony. This is the kickoff for our students who are going to be engaged in a year of experiential education, working with live clients, real people with real matters and real complications in their lives, and all of the messiness that entails, but with support and supervision and resources and everything that they need to come through this experience with success and practice readiness and able to go out into their careers, ready to go, ready to hit the ground running. And so I want to congratulate them, and I want to congratulate everyone who is here to support them today. The next time you guys will get to do anything like this will be in May for graduation. So close. No pressure, no pressure. But yeah, so everyone should have programs. We're going to start with some remarks from our dean, Amelia Smith-Reinhardt.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you to all of you who have come and joined us here today. I'm the William J. Mayer Jr. Dean here at the WVU College of Law, and I'm just starting my second year, so hopefully I've met many of you, and I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you even more. Our law clinics are the center of experiential life here at the law school, and on average, about 40,000 hours of legal services are provided to West Virginians through our clinical work per year. It is truly a land-grant law school, and we're very proud of the work that we are doing and have done year over year in our clinical program. We have 9 clinics, including general civil litigation, veterans advocacy, entrepreneurship, low-income taxpayer, child and family, the medical legal partnership, immigration, WV Innocence Project, the U.S. Supreme Court Clinic, and the Land Use and Sustainable Development Clinic. All of those directors I see standing in the back of the room, very unassuming as always, but they do the really hard work of supervising all of our students and working with our clients, and I want to thank all of them for the hard work that they do. Thank you. We take seriously the experiential education that our students receive here and are pleased that so many of them seek Rule 10 certification to represent clients to the best of their abilities. The Supreme Court of West Virginia has recognized the importance of this work and of civility to our legal profession, and that's a good reminder that your experiences in the clinic are about more than just adequate representation and access to justice, but about being the best lawyer and best human that you can be to achieve your clients' goals. We are so proud of you for continuing this tradition, and thank you for all of your hard work that you've put into getting here and the work that you'll do this upcoming year. And thank you to all of your support people who've joined you here today. Thank you.
And now we'll hear a few brief comments from Judge Michael Alloy, who's the magistrate judge in the district court for the Northern District of West Virginia.
Yes, good afternoon, and it's so wonderful to see you all and to see all the clinics and to see all the good work that you're doing. Marjorie gave me my first job in the clinic in 2002, and I worked in the clinic as an instructor for 10 years, and I loved it. And now I have the honor of continuing to work with the clinic in that the veterans program. We have a veterans diversion program in federal court so that we try to address the underlying needs of veterans. We should all hang our head in shame for how we treat our veterans. And so here's a chance to do something good, do something real for them. In addition, the Family Law Clinic provides services for our drug court. And I wish you could have been there to see when we had some of the students there visiting us. And we told one of our participants, "That's your lawyer in the back." And the lawyer stood up, and our participant just glowed. She was 10 times bigger that day because she wasn't alone and she had someone on her side. And so there is no higher calling than public service. And part of the role of my being as judge is I'm so thankful for that. But there is no higher calling. Don't let anything else out there fool you. To care for your community, for the most vulnerable in your community, and to be there when they need you, that is a blessing. It is a gift that you should not take lightly. And for family and parents here, be proud. You should be real proud for what they're doing. To care about your community is so beautiful. You know, the judge and I were talking about this earlier, and I said, we've got plenty of lawyers who are smart enough, and we got plenty of lawyers with means, but we don't have enough who care deeply enough. And that's where you will make your difference. So, again, you make me so proud for what you're doing. I read this, and I forget what the context was, but it was beautiful. It's by Maya Angelou, and she said that there is no greater agony than having an untold story inside of you. Every one of your clients will have an untold story. You may not win on the law, you may not win on the facts, but you can always hear their untold story. You can always empower them simply by being there in the time of need. And don't let anyone take that away from you. So that's the greatest public service you can offer. Listen to their story, be there in their time of need, and then the rest of it will work itself out. So again, I don't know of anything makes me prouder of my law school than to be here today with you all. This is too beautiful. Bless you for what you're about to do. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Judge Ali, for those words and the positivity that you always share with us. And now I'd like to introduce Chief Justice John Hutchison of the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals to offer an address to our students.
You know, Nicole grabbed me some time ago and said, the last Chief Justice came up and made a few remarks. Would you do the same? And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be like Mac Alloy and be able to talk for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And then all of a sudden, Nicole says, oh no, you've got 15 to 20 minutes. So get ready, guys. I bring you greetings from Supreme Court of Appeals of the state of West Virginia. And Dean Reinhardt mentioned the Supreme Court and our support for this program. And I will tell you that the Dean and the Supreme Court of Appeals are working on a number of projects to meet needs that are unmet in the state of West Virginia. And I'll mention a couple of those later on in my remarks. To prepare, once Nicole told me, says you've got this amount of time instead of that amount of time, I was thinking, what do I do? And I took a hint from my wife. And my wife sits in the evenings, and Mike Plant knows her. She's a pretty bright lady. But in any event, I ask a question, and I can hear the keys on the computer clicking. And I said, what are you doing? She said, Google knows. So I thought, okay, Google knows, and I'll type in. So I typed in 5 tips for new lawyers. And I typed it in and got 10 Google pages of different points. Some of them were a little lengthy. One of them, I don't know why they stopped at 49, but it was 49 tips for new lawyers. Most of them were 10 or 15. But I needed to do that so that I could drive home my incredibly important thoughts to you all today. In any event, obviously when I did that, I did not read every article on all 10 pages of Google, but I read a lot of them, and they came from various sources. You know, I had points from a Supreme Court justice in the western part of Australia. His was really good. And there were a couple of state bar, Ohio State Bar, Michigan State Bar articles on tips for new lawyers. So I tried to pick out the ones that I thought were the most important for where I am, and it's based upon my career bias. And you will find that you have a life bias and you will develop a career bias. And so these points are based upon my career bias and what I have seen in my 42 years since I left this institution in 1980. The first one is the practice of law comes with obligations and is a precious commodity to lose. As you begin your careers as lawyers, and you are beginning your career, in the clinics you will be acting as lawyers. And as you begin that practice in these various clinics, you must understand that you legally and practically are bound by the rules of professional conduct. That is the basis. The rules are the basis of what you do and should do. You must know those rules, and you must know when you are reaching the edge, so to speak, and you need to know what your obligations are. There are a few other sets of rules that in the clinics you're going to have to be familiar with. I'll just give you a few. Not an exhaustive list, but a few. Rules of civil procedure, rules of criminal procedure, rules of evidence, trial court rules, magistrate court civil and criminal rules, rules of practice and procedure in family court, rules of practice and procedure in abuse and neglect, rules of practice and procedure in domestic violence, and rules for all the agencies that you all will contact in your career. So you must know those by the end of the week, I think. Is that a reasonable amount of time? You must be familiar with. I tell you this because those rules are your guiding principles. Those set you straight. Those let you know where you're going. But more than anything, the rules of professional conduct must guide your conduct as you deal with your clients. That's heavy. You guys are getting ready to go into a process where you will have clients and you have obligations to those clients. Leads me into my next point, which is honesty to your client and to the courts are an absolute requirement. You must be honest. You must be honest with your client and never oversell their possible outcomes. Define your win. You must define based upon the case that you are presented with. You must define what constitutes a win for you and your client. I'll give you an example, and this might show you where some of my biases come. For years, I represented insurance companies and defended their clients in cases, in civil cases in counties throughout the state of West Virginia. And you had to be able to define what was a win to make sure that the claims manager that hired you and was paying your hourly rate and allowing you to go to trial when you thought you should go to trial, you had to define a win. A win for us in that situation was the jury verdict was less than the last offer you made. That's a win. Define your win. Understand where you need to be and what you can do for your clients. Remember, your clients will lie to you. Guaranteed, they will lie to you. The other thing that you can guarantee is a lot of your clients believe they know more about the case, the situation, and the law and what the outcome ought to be than you know. They believe that. They're going to tell you, I know about this. I know where we need to go. I know what's a win. You have to be able to control that client's expectation. You get around this problem of the fact that they know more about the case, they know what's relevant and what's not. You get around that by your intake. They learn how to do intake, obviously learn how to do intake. Detailed intake of a client's case is critical because that's going to set the course for you. And you're going to find that they are holding back facts, they're holding back information, and they do that because they know more than you do, or at least they think that. And you're going to have to drag that out. And you do that by an effective intake, but also as you move through the case, information is going to come to you that's going to tell you, hey, you're not telling me everything, and you're going to have to re-interview, re-intake, constantly communicate with your client. One of the largest number of complaints that we get from law with regard to lawyer conduct, the ODC, Office of Disciplinary Counsel, have these hearings. They make recommendations to the Supreme Court as to what discipline should be handed out with regard to a client or a lawyer. And one of the largest complaints that we get, that we have to deal with, is a failure of a lawyer to effectively communicate on a reasonable basis and a rational basis with their clients. They don't tell their clients what's going on. You cannot do that. You got to move forward. And you do that by constantly communicating with and getting additional information from them. The other thing, the flip side of that is, you must be absolutely honest with the courts or the judicial body, be it an agency or whatever that you're dealing with. You must be absolutely honest with them. Remember, judges in the state of West Virginia have fewer resources than a small to medium law firm. The judges in the state of West Virginia have one law clerk, one. And so they're very, very busy. Judges must rely and be able to believe what you tell them. I will tell you, burn them once and you're burned forever. Judges don't have the time in every case to do the detailed analysis of the cases that you cite to them. And if they pick up on a case that you say says one thing, and they rely upon that, and then later they're burned because you kind of twisted it a little bit to fit your needs, then you're burned. And that judge will never trust what you have written. And it'll also kind of irritate him because he knows that he has got to review, when you send him a brief, he has got to review every case that you cite to make sure that it says what you say it says. Burn a judge once and you're burned forever. Don't just cite from the annotations in Mickey's or West's. I mean, we all like to rely upon that. That's a down and dirty, quick and easy way to do it. And don't just cite syllabus points from cases. Know the entire case that you're relying upon and how it relates to your case. The other thing that I will tell you, and you'll learn this in, I guess, maybe in trial ad or trial procedure, if you've got something bad about your case, be it a case that's dead against you or facts that your client might hurt your client but are going to come in, It's clearly better for you to address it at the beginning rather than have somebody else address it, and then you have to say, oops, I'm sorry, I should have brought that up. Effectively distinguish cases that are contrary to your position. Do not ignore them. You must deal with them. There was a professor here that used to tell us, and he's no longer, Tom Cady's not, Tom's gone. He taught torts, and he was a little ornery to deal with, but he always said to us in torts classes, if the law's against you, you need to argue the facts. If the facts are against you, you need to argue the law. And if both are against you, you just need to argue like hell. Well, you need to be able to do that. And that sounds a little silly, but it is in fact true. You have to be able to distinguish the cases. You also have to be able to deal with the facts that might otherwise hurt you. Next point. This is really big in my mind. It always was whenever I was working for somebody else. What is the deadline? Really, what is the deadline? You are going to receive projects. You're going to have to deal with projects, and you have to know what the deadlines are. Every client you have believes that their case is the most important case in the history of civil litigation or criminal litigation. You have to communicate with them, but you also have to set reasonable deadlines. Now, some of the time, you're going to be in a position where you have to manage it because you're going to have more than one project going at a time. And if you need to move deadlines, you need to work that in. You need to understand emergencies will arise in cases. It's amazing that some people do not understand that there are things like legal emergencies. Things come up. Things come up. The other thing you need to understand in dealing with cases so that you can manage your workload is that sometimes judges can be capricious. Oh my gosh, I need briefing on that, and I need it in 10 days. Now we just issued an order, Supreme Court issued an order on a hugely political and big case that has come to us. And last Friday, we gave them 15 business days to address a specific issue. That may be a little capricious, but it's something that they're pushing hard, and we're saying we need this information. But that just totally blows the management docket schedule of the lawyers, because that project gets dumped in the middle of it. So my point being, you have to know what your deadlines are. And if you're not sure and you have a supervising attorney, go to that attorney, because ultimately that supervising attorney is the person responsible for prioritizing your projects. He knows what the ultimate need is. He knows when he needs it. He knows what the problem is. I can't tell you the number of times that as a circuit judge, I would tell my clerk, this is number one. This is number one. This has got to get done. And my clerk would, later in the day, after I had cooled down a little bit, would come to me and said, okay, I have 6 number ones here. When do you want them? And that's the appropriate thing to do. It was my job to prioritize the 6 number ones that I had sitting back there in that office. You need to do that too. So, unless you're a sole practitioner, you're working with somebody else generally, you need help, you need to ask them. Do not be afraid to go to your supervising attorney or your colleagues and say, I've got a problem. I'm overloaded. I need somebody to tell me what I need to do first. Don't be afraid to do that. Because if you don't, you're going to end up with your entire workload being blown out of the water because you're not going to know what to do. Your dean mentioned this next point, and I will tell you it is becoming more and more important. Civility is a requirement. The Supreme Court of Appeals last year adopted a civility clause and added it to the oath that all lawyers are now taking to be admitted to practice. Remember, the person who is your nemesis or opponent in this case will likely be your ally later. You cannot burn your bridges. You cannot burn your bridges. You must understand that, yes, you have an obligation to present your case as best you can, but you don't do that by shooting darts at your opponent. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, not only civility with your opposing counsel is huge, but civility in other areas is equally critical. Think what happens whenever you irritate to a great degree a law clerk or a circuit clerk or a deputy clerk or a court reporter, or heaven forbid, you irritate a judicial assistant, meaning the judge's secretary. That could be devastating to you. I said it before and I'll say it again. If you're burned once, you're burned forever with those people. It's amazing. What's the old saying? You can draw more flies with sugar than you can with vinegar. That works, guys. That absolutely works. And you have to remember that in the court system, the judges rely on all those people. And so you irritate them, you're irritating the judge. And that's something you can't do. Civility is unbelievably important from top to bottom in the judicial system. The next one, which I think is very, very important. I won't spend a lot of time on it. Know your audience. Who are you speaking to? Who is the person who is designed to receive your message? You are going to be sending out messages to all these people. It may be a judge, it may be a hearing examiner, it may be an agency representative. But you've got to know who you're talking to. Investigate those people. Take the time to figure out who is that individual? Where does he come from? Talk to your colleagues. Talk to lawyers that you know may have appeared in front of that judge. Every judge is different. Every hearing examiner is different. And they all have their own little quirks. It would be best if you knew those quirks before you appear in front of that guy. I'll give you a couple of hints, and this is based upon personal experience. Things I did not do, which I'm telling you you should do. Start formally in any proceeding that you're appearing in, and then take your cues from the judicial officer or the hearing examiner, whomever, whether or not you can back off and be a little less formal. Take your cues. Little things mean a lot. Little things mean a lot. Your attire means a lot. The fact that you stand immediately when you're going to address the judicial officer, that means a lot. What you have on the table in front of you means a lot. I will tell you a personal story. There's a guy named John Hatcher who was judge down in Fayette County, West Virginia, and retired 4 or 5 years ago. And Hatcher had been a lawyer for a long time, been in the legislature, and he became judge. You know Hatcher. and you will attest to this story. Hatcher, if you say, Judge Hatcher, do you know Judge Hutchison? I know him. He's the first guy that ever appealed one of my decisions. He will tell you that every time he entered. And I did, and I lost. But that was okay, but he still took it personally. But in any event, you walk into Hatcher's courtroom, and you set your briefcase on counsel table. You have just irritated a judge. You don't stand up immediately when you're getting ready to speak to him, and you don't say, Your Honor, or may it please the court. You've immediately irritated him. Now, guys, I will tell you that you no longer have to worry about what type of tie you wear, because there were a couple of times that I was actually chastised by Judge Hatcher because he did not like my tie. I wore my Jerry Garcia tie over there one day, and that really kind of set him off. But you don't have to worry about that anymore. But I tell you this because it is important that you know that. All I needed to do was call a couple of guys in Fayette County that I knew and say, hey, what's this Hatcher guy like? And they would have told me, don't put anything on the counsel table other than your file and your notepad. Stand up every time you speak to him. I would have known that, and I would have not gotten in trouble the first time I went over there. I never made that mistake again because I really got a reaming from him from the bench. You learn. Take the time to know your audience. Know who you're talking to. All right. Finally, I'm going to recommend a little article. It's not very big. It's in the Ohio State Bar Association page. A guy named Joshua Bowman, a young guy, wrote it, and it was written in April of this year, 2022. Young lawyers, tips for new lawyers appearing before a court. So be prepared. You must know your case, and you must know their case. You must know their case law as well as you know your case law. You must know the entire procedural history. Because judges are going to ask you things like, well, this is the third time we've had to be in here to schedule this case. Has this case been mediated? Have you guys been in settlement negotiations? You need to be able to tell the judge that. Be respectful. I previously mentioned some of the things about civility, knowing your audience, but for goodness sakes, be respectful to everybody in the courtroom. I will tell you that, and I get to this point on civility again, it is appropriate for you as a lawyer to point out errors or misstatements of fact or misstatements of case law. That is not being uncivil. That is representing your case. One of the things I will also remind you on civility, always talk to the hearing examiner, the judge. Do not talk to opposing counsel. Address your remarks to the court. Never get up and say, well, Michael, you got that so wrong, it's crazy. You don't say that. You don't talk to opposing counsel. And finally, one of the things that I want to point out to you is be concise. If you can get your point across in a memorandum of 10 to 15 pages rather than 40 to 50 pages, do it. This is not creative writing. When you write a memo to a circuit judge, it's not creative writing. It's get the information that the judge needs so that the judge can act. You got to remember, folks, that on average, judges in the state, each judge in the state of West Virginia gets 550 cases a year. Now, some of those are small cases and can be dealt with quickly. Others of them can be massive tort cases that could take years to resolve. But each judge gets about $550 a year. That's down about 20% from pre-COVID, and we're starting to work back. The other number that you need to remember is each judge getting those 550 cases a year carries a pending caseload of anywhere between 600 and 1,400 cases. That's a pending caseload, depending on how busy the circuit is that you're dealing with. But even a pending caseload of 600 cases for a single judge can be overwhelming. So brevity is necessary. All right, final thing. And this is Tim Armstead's plea, and I'll make the plea here. The state of West Virginia is in dire need of folks who are willing to undertake being guardians ad litem, especially in abuse and neglect cases. When I was appointed to the Supreme Court in 2019, I attended the seminar put on by the Supreme Court to train guardians ad litem in abuse and neglect cases. And there's a statute that says they have to have certification before they can be a guardian ad litem in abuse and neglect case. There were well over 450 people at that seminar. That was still not enough, considering the fact that we've got over 6,000 children in care right now. That's either in a relative placement, foster placement, or even a residential placement. We've got that many children in care. So we need guardians ad litem. Well, last year in 2021, we were able to have that seminar to train our guardians ad litem and try and move forward. You know, we got past COVID and everything. 250 is all we had. That's all we had. If you want to get some real life courtroom experience, get yourself into one or two abuse and neglect cases where you serve as a guardian ad litem. Please get the training. We need you. I beg you to do that. And as Michael says, it's public service. It's not all about making money. It's not all about climbing the ladder in a firm or some organization. You as lawyers have an obligation to give back. I'm sure you've gotten the speeches on pro bono work. That's great. Absolutely fantastic. But this is another way you can give back to the community. Please consider it. I'm hoping the folks that run the family law clinic will kind of pick this up and help us out. But we need it. I congratulate all of you who are moving into the clinic. I am exceedingly jealous because I didn't have the same opportunity when I was in law school that you have. Take it and run. You're ahead of the curve. You will do great. I congratulate you. Nicole, thank you for asking me to come up and say a few words. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Justice. Always appreciate the wisdom that you share, and I think both of what Judge Alloway and Justice Hutchison have said apply across the board to any practice group, whether it's litigation, transactional, what have you. The idea that clients are going to have untold stories, and they need you. They need you to be their voice, and that they need you to be the calm within the storm, right? When you are navigating all kinds of competing obligations, they need you to be the calm in the storm and to kind of look at everything going on around you and make practical calls about what's going to be a priority. So, those were just a couple of things that particularly stuck out with me, to me, in the words that the judge and justice have shared. I hope they made some impact on y'all as well. At this point, we're going to present the certificates to the students. And so now we need to do a little choreography. So what we're going to do is each clinic will come up as a group and come to one side. I'll call each name in turn. Once your name has been called and you've received your certificate, if you can go to the back corner and wait. Once your whole group is there, you'll take a picture, and then you can come back to your seats. And so while the first group is headed toward the picture and taking the picture, then the next group will come up, okay? Everybody with me? We're gonna make it work. Okay, so I'd love for our dean and our guests to come up so that they can shake hands with everyone, if that's all right. Oh, sorry. You're gonna want that. I'm gonna have y'all stand right here. All right, so the first clinic is the Child and Family Clinic. So if y'all could come up. While they're coming up, I'll just say this clinic contributes to stabilizing families in West Virginia through doing custody work and divorces and visitations and all kinds of things that make families stronger by achieving resolutions that are in the best interest of everyone involved. And so I want to thank y'all for that work. First, Christian Laparne, Olivia Lee, Madison Messenger, Rachel Mullins, Eleni Orphanides. Did I? Not even close. I'm sorry. Jack Swiney and Phoebe Temple. Our next clinic is the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Law Clinic. And this clinic works to achieve economic recovery in West Virginia through supporting small businesses and helping small business owners organize entities, protect their intellectual property, and thrive in all number of other kind of ways. Philip Brown, Michael DeSantis, Christopher Everson, Angeline had to go, Alexis Kessel. Thank you. Next up is immigration. And this one, it's kind of counterintuitive that there would be a significant population of immigrants in West Virginia, but there are actually 30,000 foreign-born folks throughout the state. And they and their families all have needs relating to their immigration status. And so the immigration clinic is stemming the tide. There's actually only, 3 or 4 now, is it? Full-time immigration practitioners, kind of iffy, maybe 3. And so the immigration clinic is really the one stepping into the breach to support folks that have come here from afar. Dominic Cunningham, Alexis DeMarzo, Carly DeSario, did I get it right? Okay. Bailey Gilchrist, and Elizabeth Zano. Next up will be the Innocence Project. The West Virginia Innocence Project is our only criminal practice clinic. They go back and dig into ages-old files, sometimes decades-old files, and try and hold the criminal justice system accountable by fostering by fostering accountability and certainty in the prosecutorial process, by finding cases where there was an error and helping people get exonerated where there was an error. And so it's a really wonderful clinic. Lexus Allen, Madison Carroll, Margaret Lohman, Regan Martinez, did I say that right? Reagan, oh, sorry. Nakia Ridgway, Hunter Sims, Calvin Tomlin, and Brandon Wasson. Next up is the Land Use and Sustainable Development Clinic. I'm sure everyone knows how important our environmental resources are in West Virginia, and you know how proud we are to be wild and wonderful. And the Land Use and Sustainable Development Clinic supports that through a number of different projects. They also work with small communities to support their planning and organizing needs. And they've recently been working on floodwater recovery with some of our smaller communities, among a million other things that they're doing. Cameron, say for me, Cameron Lefebvre? Cameron Lefebvre? What? Lefevre? All right. Oh, he had to step in. Well, I didn't have to say it. But thanks for helping. Cameron Stoops. Cullinan Molnar. Emma Duncan. Evan Steyer. Kevin Carpenter. Leif Olson. Molly Plant. And Trevor Keiss. Next, the Litigation and Advocacy Clinic, particularly close to my heart because that's the one I direct most directly. And this clinic is a general civil practice clinic in which students will get all manner of kinds of experience. They're going to get to put their hands on a little bit of everything. Some employment law, some consumer law, some property disputes, some wills, a little bit of everything so that they can be our all-rounders and go out there and have those skills to share with communities in need. Carly Celestin, Madison Chapman, Adriana DeMattis, I'm sorry. Alexander Leroy. Thank you. Abigail Martin. Travis Knupp. Carrie Shuttler. And Gabrielle Tavern. The Low-Income Taxpayer Clinic is a clinic which works with folks who have tax controversies against the IRS, where there are, they need someone to fight for them and argue that what the IRS is saying they owe is not accurate. You can imagine how difficult that is and how much of a challenge that can be to manage on one's own. So the Low-Income Taxpayer Clinic steps into that breach and also does things like innocent spouse cases. Jordan Finelli and Jonathan Moyer. The United States Supreme Court Clinic is a very unusual clinic. There's only about 15 of those in the country, and so we stand next to schools like Harvard and Stanford in the fact that we have a Supreme Court clinic. This clinic works on the most cutting edge kinds of law by supporting, writing briefs and preparing attorneys for Supreme Court arguments before the United States Supreme Court. So lots of writing, lots of very technical kind of law. Blake Jacobs. Cameron Kiner. And I'm smiling under here, sorry. I just realized people probably can't tell. Caroline Ledman, I'm sorry. Nathan Carantillo. Devin Redding. William Schultz. Stephanie Weber. And Anna Williams. Last but never, ever, ever least is our Veterans Advocacy Clinic. The Veterans Advocacy Clinic does so much for veterans. They work on things like discharge upgrades where someone has been wrongfully classified as a lower status than what they have actually earned in service to our country so that they can get the full benefits to which they're due. But they also work on all kinds of matters for veterans, custody matters, family matters, civil matters. They're stepping in wherever they can to serve our veterans. Peter Calton. Sarah Carpenter. My fingers don't work anymore, I'm sorry. Thank you. Sterling Fitzwater. Taylor Giles. Giles, I'm sorry. Sophia Hogg. Elijah Stevens. And Robert Thompson. So at this stage, this is kind of one of my favorite things because I get to say thank you to a lot of people. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank y'all for coming and supporting these students, all of our guests, whether family, friends, legal community members, partners in our different projects. I want to thank all of you. You've already done so much for all of us, and I know the students are going to continue to need your support throughout this year and beyond. Additionally, I want to thank all of our program directors, staff attorney, everyone who's involved on the ground on a daily basis with our clinics. We have a number of staff attorneys and different kinds of office staff. We really are a law firm within the law school. And so there's a lot of moving parts with that and a lot of people that are touching that every day. In particular, I want to thank our office manager, Angie Hott. You know, there's sometimes just people that, yes. You know, there's just people that like make you look good and like take care of things. And like, if you're not nodding, it's probably because you're that person to someone. But so Angie is that to me every day and just makes things happen like magic. It's wonderful and glorious. And I want to thank our dean who, you know, this is just her second year with us and she's already been so supportive of our clinics. And I am so excited for where we will take this program next. We are one of the largest legal services organizations in West Virginia, and we are out there and we're not stopping. We're going to continue giving an amazing experience to our students and giving amazing high quality service to our clients and being a partner to everyone else in the legal community. And I want to thank everyone in the room for that very much. And congratulations to everyone. You're going to have an amazing year. There's going to be ups and downs, but we're all going to get through it. We're all going to learn together. And I look forward to welcoming you as my, siblings in the bar once you've graduated. And so at this time, this concludes our program. Oh, and I think it just goes without saying, so that's why I forgot. I really want to thank Judge Alloy and Justice Hutchison for their words today and, Justice Hutchison came up in his wife's very small car from Charleston today to be here to share some time with the students. So you can imagine how that must have been. Also, who would pay cash money to see the Grateful Dead tie? I want to see that. But I do want to thank y'all. And at this time, this concludes our program. We're going to have a reception and refreshments up in the lobby area, and I look forward to meeting many of you. Have a great day.